Just a couple of days ago, Kim Kardashian asked a question about 3i Atlas and directed it to the acting administrator of NASA, Sean Duffy, and he immediately tweeted a reply in which he explained 3i Atlas and so forth. But on the same day, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna sent a letter to Sean Duffy asking NASA to release this data that is being held for over a month. No response so far. When I approached the principal investigator of HiRISE, no response. It doesn't make much sense.
Also because it's made almost entirely of nickel, whatever it is. And the only way that exists here is industrial alloys, apparently.
There are definitely comets and asteroids that are made primarily of nickel. In fact,
really?
Yeah. So the places where you mine nickel on Earth is actually where there was an asteroid or comet that hit Earth that was a nickel-rich,
Wow!
nickel-rich
a giant
meteorite.
nickel-rich deposit.
Yeah, that's it's coming.
Ooh.
Those are from impacts. So you definitely didn't want to be there at the time because anything would have been obliterated.
Right.
But that's where the sources of nickel and cobalt are these days.
So this is Avi Loeb. A few hours ago, the first hint of non-gravitational acceleration, that something other than gravity is affecting its acceleration, meaning something is affecting its trajectory beyond gravity, was indicated. Interesting. Dun, dun, dun. So it's mostly nickel, very little iron, which he was saying is on Earth, it only exists in alloys. But whatever, you're dealing with another planet.
There are cases where there's very nickel-rich asteroids, meteorites that have
2 days. That's how long it took NASA's acting administrator to respond to Kim Kardashian's question about an interstellar object. 11 minutes, actually. But when a Harvard astrophysicist who's published 11 papers on the same object reaches out, 32 days of silence. When a sitting congresswoman sends an official letter demanding the release of critical data, no response at all. And on November 2nd, 2025, something cracked. Not in space, not physically, but you could hear it in Avi Loeb's voice, a fracture in the composure of a scientist who'd finally run out of patience. This isn't about conspiracy theories or alien cover-ups. This is about the highest resolution images ever taken of an interstellar object. Images that could answer fundamental questions about what's visiting our solar system. Sitting on a server at the University of Arizona for over a month while the scientific community is left in the dark. And the reason those images matter so much, the reason Loeb finally lost it, might actually change how you see what's happening right now with 3i Atlas. Let me take you back to October 2nd, 2025, the single most important day in the entire 3i Atlas story. On that date, this object passed within 30 million kilometers of Mars. When Hubble photographed it back in July, it was 450 million kilometers away, 15 times more distant. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter aimed its HiRISE camera directly at 3i Atlas. This is the most powerful camera humanity has ever sent to another planet. 4 images were captured, and scientists around the world have been waiting for those images ever since. Here's why they matter more than anything else we have. First, the resolution is 3 times better than Hubble. HiRISE achieved 30 kilometers per pixel. Hubble's best shots were 100 kilometers per pixel. Think about what that means. Where Hubble could make out a city block, HiRISE can see individual buildings. For an object millions of kilometers away, moving at 68 kilometers per second, that difference is everything. But resolution is only part of it. The viewing angle changes the entire game. When Hubble photographed 3i Atlas, the object was moving almost directly toward Earth. We saw it edge on, like looking at a pencil pointed straight at your eye. You see the tip, not the length. That strange jet emanating from it pointing toward the sun. We were viewing it compressed by perspective. Loeb calculated the geometry. Based on brightness and light scattering, that jet is actually 10 times longer than it is wide. But from our edge-on view, compressed by projection, it appeared maybe twice as long. From Mars on October 2nd, the perspective was completely different. Sideways, like looking at that pencil from the side. You see its full length, its actual structure, its true geometry. That sideways view could reveal the three-dimensional architecture of the jet, could show whether it's a chaotic natural plume of gas and dust expanding randomly in all directions, or something with directed geometry, something with focused structure, something that suggests design, and this is where the time sensitivity becomes critical. 3I Atlas is moving at 68 kilometers per second relative to the Sun. Every single day, it gets farther from the Sun, farther from Earth, farther from Mars. October 2nd was humanity's one chance to get this view at this resolution from this angle. The object is leaving. It will never return. This was it. Future observations depend entirely on knowing what those images reveal, where to point telescopes, what wavelengths to use, what features to track, whether to focus on the debris cloud around the nucleus, search for separated fragments, or monitor the jet's evolution. Every single day, those images remain withheld. Scientists around the world can't plan their observations properly, can't coordinate their efforts, can't maximize the rapidly closing window we have left. Here's what makes it even more frustrating. Multiple spacecraft were watching during that close approach. The European Space Agency released their images within days. Lower resolution, yes, but they released them. They shared the data with the scientific community. NASA? Total silence. The images exist right now, processed and ready, sitting on servers at the University of Arizona. Avi Loeb knew they were coming. He'd contacted the HiRISE team beforehand. October 3rd, he waited. October 10th, 1 week gone, he reached out to the principal investigator. No response. October 17th, 2 weeks. Loeb sent a formal letter to acting NASA Administrator Sean Duffy. No response. October 24th, 3 weeks. He followed up again. Still nothing. 32 days of complete silence on the most important images we have of this object. And then Kim Kardashian tweeted a question about 3I Atlas, and Sean Duffy responded in 11 minutes with a detailed explanation. That's what finally broke Avi Loeb. Not because he begrudges a celebrity asking questions about science, but because those October 2nd images could answer the fundamental question: what is this thing? To understand why that question matters so much, we need to go back to July 1st, 2025, the discovery date. Within days, Loeb ran calculations that would ignite a firestorm. He wasn't guessing. He was doing straightforward physics. Brightness plus distance equals size. If the brightness comes from reflected sunlight off a solid rocky surface, the object is 20 kilometers across. Manhattan-sized. If Oumuamua were a ping-pong ball, 3I Atlas would be the size of a multi-story building, and that creates a massive problem. Objects that big shouldn't appear once per decade. Based on the amount of rocky material drifting between stars, the ejection rates from planetary systems, the density of interstellar space, something this massive should show up once every 10,000 years. Maybe once every 100,000 years. Not now. Not conveniently when we happen to have telescopes capable of detecting it and spacecraft positioned to photograph it close up. The mathematics doesn't work unless one of two things is true. Either the object isn't solid rock and is somehow much larger than its brightness suggests, or it's not following random statistics. Loeb wrote a paper. He showed his calculations step by step. He explained the statistical paradox clearly. Careful, peer-reviewed, professional. And at the end, he added one sentence exploring the second possibility. One sentence suggesting that if the object was deliberately aimed at the inner solar system, that would resolve the statistical impossibility. Not claiming it's true, just noting it as one hypothesis that fits the data. The journal editor, Chris Lintott from the UK, responded immediately. Remove that sentence or we won't publish. Not, can you provide more supporting evidence? Not, explain your reasoning more clearly. Not, address these counter-arguments. Just delete it, censor it. Don't say it. Loeb removed the sentence to get the paper published. Information needed to get out. Then he immediately wrote an entire separate paper exploring that one deleted sentence in detail. If they won't let him mention it, he'll write a complete analysis of it. Lintott found out about the new paper and went to the New York Post. publicly declaring that anything other than a natural comet is nonsense on stilts. This is the same person who, as editor of an astrophysics journal, decides what scientists are and aren't allowed to publish, what conclusions are acceptable in scientific literature, what questions can be asked publicly. That's when the pattern started. The mockery, the control. But 3I Atlas kept refusing to cooperate with the narrative. The object started doing things comets don't do. July 21st. Hubble captures a jet pointing toward the sun. Comets don't do that. Heat vaporizes ice. Solar wind pushes material away, always. It's basic physics. 3I Atlas had an anti-tail pointing the wrong direction, and those October 2nd images could show us exactly what that jet is. The sideways view, the structure, whether it's natural or engineered. Then the composition came back wrong. 2 teams announced water-rich. Brian Cox agreed publicly. Then the Webb telescope proved them all wrong. 87% carbon dioxide, 9% carbon monoxide, 4% water. Not water-rich. Water-poor. Comets are supposed to be mostly water. This challenges what the definition of a comet even is. Did Cox correct himself? No. He moved on, because maintaining authority matters more than being right. Let me walk you through just how improbable this object truly is. Anomaly 1. Trajectory aligned within 5 degrees of the ecliptic plane. Probability 0.2%. Random objects should come from random angles. Oumuamua and Borisov came in steep. 3I Atlas threaded through exactly where the planets orbit. A 1 in 500 chance. Anomaly 2. Anti-tail pointing toward the sun. Unprecedented. This breaks fundamental physics of how comets behave under solar radiation pressure. Anomaly 3. Size and speed. 1,000,000 times more massive than Oumuamua, 1,000 times bigger than Borisov, but also faster than both. In nature, bigger typically means slower. Probability less than 0.1%. Anomaly 4. Perfect timing. It passed within tens of millions of kilometers of Mars on October 10th, Venus on November 3rd, and will pass Jupiter on March 16th, 2026. 3 perfect planetary flybys allowing spacecraft orbiting those planets to photograph it up close, while simultaneously becoming completely invisible from Earth during perihelion on October 29th, hidden behind the Sun. From our perspective, the most critical moment when it's closest to the Sun, potentially undergoing changes, potentially doing something important. It was perfectly concealed from every ground-based telescope on Earth, from every amateur astronomer, from every space telescope in Earth orbit. The only views came from spacecraft around other planets and solar observatories that constantly monitor the Sun. Think about the improbability here. The object had to arrive at exactly the right time to thread through the inner solar system when Mars, Venus, and Jupiter were all positioned for close flybys, while Earth was positioned on the exact opposite side of the Sun during perihelion. Imagine throwing 3 darts simultaneously and hitting 3 different bullseyes across a room, while a 4th person standing nearby turns their back at the exact moment you release. The timing has to be perfect. The angles have to be exact. The coordination has to be impossible. Probability 0.005%. 5 in 100,000. Loeb was asked about this in an interview. Why would the timing be so perfect? His answer was measured but unmistakable. One possibility is that it wants to avoid us from seeing it. Anomaly 5. Industrial composition. Way more nickel than iron. Natural comets have roughly equal amounts. 3I Atlas has industrial ratios, the kind we manufacture for aerospace applications using the carbonyl pathway, a chemical process we invented. Elon Musk addressed this on Joe Rogan's podcast just days ago. He suggested natural asteroids can be rich in nickel, which is true, but here's what he missed. Those asteroids are also rich in iron. The anomaly isn't just nickel. It's the ratio. High nickel compared to iron. That's the signature of industrial production. Anomaly 6. 4% water. Comets are dirty snowballs, mostly water ice. Finding one that's 96% other material is like finding an iceberg made of rock. Anomaly 7. Extreme polarization. Light twisting in ways no known natural material produces. Not even Borisov, which we know is natural, shows this behavior. Anomaly 8. WOW signal direction. August 15, 1977, the famous radio signal never repeated. 48 years of mystery. 3I Atlas came from the same direction, within 9 degrees. Probability 0.6%. And Loeb revealed something significant. I encouraged radio observers to study it. They told me 2 days ago they're on target. Radio telescopes are listening right now. Anomaly 9, impossible blue brightness. October 29th, hidden behind the sun from Earth. But space observatories watched it get bright, impossibly bright, and it turned blue. Bluer than the sun itself. For an object to appear bluer than the sun, it needs to be hotter than the sun's surface. The sun is 5,800 degrees Kelvin. 3I Atlas should be a few hundred degrees based on its distance. For the color we're observing, it needs to be above 6,000 degrees. Loeb's explanation. Maybe there is some power supply. It could potentially be explained by a hot engine or a source of artificial light. 9 anomalies. Each one improbable on its own. Together, nearly impossible. All in the same object. Then ALMA, the Atacama Large Millimeter Array, detected a potential 10th anomaly. October 29th, 3I Atlas was 4 arcseconds off its predicted position. Non-gravitational acceleration. Something pushed it. For natural outgassing to cause that deviation, the object would need to lose 15% of its mass. More than 5 billion tons. That much material would form a massive, visible debris cloud. December 19th, 43 days from now, 3I Atlas passes closest to Earth. If that debris cloud exists, it will be impossible to miss. But here's what Loeb just revealed in an article published hours ago. Post-perihelion images do not show evidence for it so far. No debris cloud detected yet. The object accelerated, but there's no visible sign of the 5 billion tons of material that should be there. If this holds through December, we have the 10th anomaly, an object that accelerates without losing mass, something that violates comet physics, or something that isn't a comet at all. And to understand the scale of what we're dealing with, 3I Atlas has similar mass to the Chicxulub impactor, the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. Loeb wrote, its absence would add a 10th anomaly to the growing list. That absence might already be real. And those October 2nd high-rise images could help us understand what happened, could show structure that explains the acceleration, could reveal what we're actually looking at. The images have been withheld for 33 days. November 2nd, Avi Loeb finally lost it. In an interview about NASA, about the data, about the shutdown excuse, he said something different. I don't think there is anything indicating extraterrestrial intelligence in the data being withheld. I think it's the result of terrestrial stupidity. Terrestrial stupidity. Not aliens. Not cover-ups. Just bureaucracy and politics. Using politics to prevent the flow of information, the sharing of information among scientists that should not be delayed by any political agenda. The excuse is government shutdown. But the principal investigator isn't a NASA employee. Dr. McEwen is a University of Arizona professor. The shutdown doesn't affect him. The data exists. Someone chose to withhold it. It's completely inappropriate to withhold data from the scientific community. This is time-sensitive data. We would design our future observations based on what we know. Withholding it can hinder our expectations. Completely inappropriate. Fighting words in academic language. 33 days withheld. A celebrity got answered in 11 minutes. A congresswoman's official letter got ignored entirely. A Harvard scientist who's published 11 papers on this object can't get a response. The 10th anomaly might already be confirmed. We'll know for certain by December 19th. We'll know if Loeb was right to lose his patience. We'll know if those October 2nd images were worth hiding, or if NASA just had more important priorities than answering Congress and scientists, like responding to Kim Kardashian in 11 minutes.